From 1878 to 1968, there were 71 lake captains that called Bayview, Wisconsin, on the shore of Lake Michigan, their home. While they lived here, they captained 195 different ships, from tugboats to schooners to steamships, in voyages that took them to every one of the Great Lakes. Join us now for another episode of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, where we explore not only these captains, but also their ships, their homes, their families, and their lifetime of sailing adventures on the Great Lakes.
Well, hi everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, where we talk about the lake captains, the 71 lake captains that once lived in Bayview, Wisconsin. And by the way, Cape Cod had 55 captains, so Bayview has it beat by quite a bit. All right, starting this video, you saw the corner, the intersection of KK, Lincoln, Alice, Howell. Did I miss one? Maybe. It's a big intersection, as you Bayviewers know. But right behind me across the street is Collectivo Coffee, which I'm sure you also know. But what you probably don't know is that once used to be the site of a lumberyard run by 3 lake captain brothers. Well, what do you know, here I am again, standing on Linus Street in front of the same house. Once lived in by not only 3, but 4 different Bayview lake captains, 3 of which were the Kearns brothers. John Kearns lived over on Wentworth Avenue. There's Patrick, Thomas, and Timothy. Now Thomas, which you saw at the start of this video, Collectivo Coffee that we know today, that street corner was once a lumberyard company that was built and started by Thomas Kearns. And his brothers, Patrick and Timothy, both captain ships to bring in lumber from up north in Wisconsin over to that lumber yard at where Collectivo Coffee is today. Another interesting brother, another sets of brothers, the four Kearns brothers. There were the Brownell brothers, the Lease brothers of Scotland, so much more. That's it for now. See you next time, and remember, hats off to our Bayview Lake captains. See you next time.
Welcome to another installment of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, where we discuss the lives of the 71 different lake captains that once lived in Bayview, Wisconsin, during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, in the age of sail and steam. This discussion will include their ships, their homes, their families, and their lifetime of sailing adventures on the Great Lakes. Here is the map of lake captains' homes in Bayview to show you where this episode takes place. Its location focuses primarily on the large green arrow. Today we will be discussing the life of Captain Patrick Kearns, who, along with 3 brothers, is among Bayview's 8 sets of brothers that were all lake captains. A future episode on this channel will be devoted to all of these brothers. Patrick captained the schooner Lavender while living on East Linus Street with brother Thomas, using it to bring wood and coal from across the lakes to support Thomas's fledgling lumberyard business on East Lincoln Avenue, now the current site of Collectivo Coffee. After he left the sailing profession, he became a foreman at the Bayview rolling mill for 23 years. Captain Patrick H. Kearns was born in Canada in December 1851. His parents were born in Ireland, and they immigrated via Canada. Patrick's exact year immigrating to the USA was 1869, at age 18. For the next 14 years, from Patrick H. Kearns' arrival in the US in 1869 through his becoming a naturalized citizen in 1883, his whereabouts are unknown. He may have been living in Chicago, but that is not confirmed. He had 3 brothers, John, Thomas, and Timothy, who would all become Bayview Lake captains. In 1884, Patrick H. Kearns appears in Milwaukee for the first time, living in the 3rd Ward and working as a sailor. He was living with brothers Timothy, a sailor, and Thomas, a lake captain. From 1889 to October 1891, Patrick moved to 538 East Linus Street, working as a mate, ship unknown, though it could have been aboard his brother Thomas's schooner Conquest. Patrick continued living with brothers Timothy, now a, quote, watchman, St. Paul Road, unquote, and Thomas, a, quote, lake captain, unquote, likely owner and captain of the schooner Conquest. On 6th February 1891, and still living at 538 East Linus Street, Patrick joined with brother Thomas, and together bought the schooner Lavender from its then owners in Chicago. Thomas continued sailing the Conquest, while Patrick became captain of the Lavender, his first time as a lake captain. Patrick used the Lavender to transport lumber. At the end of the sailing season, in November 1891, Patrick got married and moved with new bride Maggie into 2350 South Howell Avenue. He continued at 2350 South Howell Avenue and as co-owner and captain of the Lavender through 1894. It also appears that Patrick bought out his brother Thomas's share in the Lavender to become sole owner and captain beginning on 1st of April 1892. During 1893 to 94, while living at 2350 South Howell Avenue, Patrick continued captaining the schooner Lavender, using it to haul lumber down from the northern woods of Michigan and Wisconsin to his brother Thomas's new coal and lumber company on East Lincoln Avenue, today the site of Collectivo Coffee. Brother Timothy did the same using his schooner, the Conquest. In 1895 to 96, Patrick Kearns left Bayview for Madison Street in Milwaukee, still captain and living with brothers Timothy and John, both sailors. However, it was during this time that it appears the schooner Lavinder, Patrick as owner and captain, began to experience financial difficulties. At the same time, Brother Thomas's Coal and Lumber Company began to fail. Sometime during 1896, Patrick had to abandon the Lavinder, and by 1898 it had sunk at its docking slip in Milwaukee Harbor near the entrance to the Kinnickinnic River. On 13th of April 1898, the Lavinder was sold to a Chicago owner. Of interest, about the same time, the schooner Conquest, with Brother Timothy Kearns as captain, was seized by the U.S. Marshal in August 1895 for failure to pay the wages of the crew, nor pay docking fees in Detroit and Sheboygan. It's likely it wasn't a coincidence that both the Kearns brothers' schooners, Conquest and Lavinder, started experiencing financial problems at the same time. They were probably diverting available funds into Brother Thomas's fledgling coal and lumber company, since both were hauling in at least lumber and also likely coal into the business. With the financial failure of the Lavinder in 1896, Captain Patrick Kearns decided to abandon the sailing profession altogether. The next year, 1897, he quit being a schooner and lake captain and hired into a new career, foreman at the rolling mill. He also returned to Bayview, initially on East Lincoln Avenue, then Wentworth Avenue, Woodward Street, South Shore Drive, Superior Street, Ellen Street, Lenox Street, Deer Place, and then finally Oatgen Street. He worked as a rolling mill foreman at all of these aforementioned streets up until about 1920, when he retired. The rolling mill clearly provided the financial stability that being an independent lake captain with his own schooner did not. By 1920, Patrick had retired and moved in with his son and brother Thomas. In fact, for all of these address changes, his brothers Thomas, Timothy, and John are frequently shown living together with their families. The four Kearns brothers were clearly close. The last time Patrick appears is in the 1927 Milwaukee City Directory, retired and living with his son. Patrick Kearns married Maggie Shea on 29th of November 1891 at St. Patrick's Church in Milwaukee. Her parents, like Patrick's, were born in Ireland. She was born in Wisconsin. They had 5 children, one of which died as a child. The 4 that survived were 2 daughters, Mary and Ellen, and 2 sons, Patrick Jr. and Timothy. They were to be married a little over 15 years. Captain Patrick H. Kearns died in his late 70s, sometime after 1927, the exact date unknown. He had spent a confirmed 23 years on the lakes, probably much longer, with just 5 as a lake captain, and all of those 5 years as captain and owner of the schooner Lavinder. Patrick and Maggie are buried together with daughter Mary at Calvary Cemetery in Milwaukee. Wife Maggie died sometime between 1905 and 1909, her exact day of death unknown. Time has erased the information on both their gravestones. Patrick's brothers John, Timothy, and Thomas are also buried at Calvary, though in a different plot. All close brothers for sure, to the very end. Thanks for watching. This photograph isn't about Bayview or its lake captains, but it's from the same era of Great Lakes maritime history. We thought we'd close with it for enjoyment, as it captures the spirit of the era. In addition, this channel and its matching website also plan to support various maritime history projects related to Bayview's lake captains. One of these is a plaque and marker with the captains' names and addresses on it, as part of the creation of the Bayview Lake Captains Historic District, which will be the first of its kind in America. If you would like to donate to support these projects, to include this and other markers honouring Bayview's lake captains, with 100% of all donations and contributions in all forms going to support them, please consider donating to us through the listings shown next. If, for some reason, we are unable to secure these markers, then all funds donated to this site will be given as a cash donation to the museum ship SS City of Milwaukee in Manistee, Michigan. That is the only surviving intact ship once captained by at least 2 and likely 3 different Bayview lake captains. I'm Simon Stanhope, narrator for these episodes. Join us again soon for the next chapter of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains.